Welcome to the Personal Brand Era podcast. I'm your host, Ella Ray, and I'm excited to talk to Heather Gansel today. She is a sports chiropractor helping women how to fix their pain issues by using corrective and rehab exercises they can do at home with minimal equipment. Hey, Heather, how are you doing?
Hey, good, Ella. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you. So what inspired you to actually get into this particular niche?
So, at a really young age, I have always been an athlete. And then at the same token, I watched my mom go to several different types of alternative care holistic practitioners. And this goes back to like the late 70s, early 80s, when probably wasn't that much of a fad at that time. So really watched her overcome chronic fatigue syndrome, depression, and stuff like that through acupuncture, chiropractic, massage, and holistic types of remedies. And then when I was in 8th grade, wound up having a severe low back injury due to softball. And my mom brought me to her chiropractor, who also did a lot with kinesiology, which is essentially muscle testing, movement patterns, and things like that. And he was really able to help me overcome my own chronic pain issues and really get me back to playing sport very quickly. And at that same token, I was kind of like really fascinated. So here I am in 8th grade going, how did he do this? How does this all work? How's the body operate? I just became really fascinated. So kind of really took it upon myself to start to really learn about the body by actually drawing it. So I'm actually gifted in art, and I started essentially studying the human body through art. So I would look at, the bones, I would look at the flesh, I would look at all of it. And I really started just becoming more and more fascinated with how everything was connected, how everything worked. And that really started triggering me down this path of, sports medicine, athletic training, and then on to chiropractic, which is what I hold my doctorate in.
I so love this that you came from an artistic view of the body. Uh, I do also paint and draw, and from a very young age. So I do feel like where you're coming from and why you have this fascination for the body, and then going into the medical area of it, which was very fascinating for me as well. Biology was one of my favorite subjects in school as well. I was also very fascinated with everything, how the body works, how the organs function, how we can actually establish real health, right? And going into the natural ways of dealing with pain and with all that stuff that we have to endure as human beings. And if I think about pain, how do you actually go about figuring out the root cause of certain pains that people have when they come to you into your practice and they tell you, "Ooh, I have a pain here and there"? How do you go about figuring out the root cause?
So this is one of those things where also too, I think everybody's so kind of thrown when I also tell them like, hey, I'm a virtual sports chiropractor. They're like, wait a second, but aren't you supposed to actually be like adjusting me in order for me to get better? And I say, not really necessarily, because exactly what you're talking about. A lot of times to figure out the root cause of the problem, the first thing we have to do is we actually have to listen to our patient, because the patient is actually going to take you through a whole timeline of events that's going to really lead you down a path that's going to uncover where everything kind of stimulated from, where it all started, where it all began. Because a lot of times, even though we might complain about one pain symptom, and I'll use shin splints as a really easy one to kind of decipher. So a lot of times people say, well, I have shin splints, and I'm like, okay, I get it. And you're telling me you have this issue and it keeps coming back, which means that's a secondary problem. That's actually not where your first problem lays, because if the problem keeps reoccurring, if it keeps coming back, that means that the problem is somewhere else. And we have to now kind of go back through our timeline of events and figure out where did things start stemming from, and then how did things end up where they currently are. So right there, it's about really listening to the patient first to find out where the root cause is. Then from there, once we really kind of have an idea and we're like, okay, I think it's starting from here, but I want to take a look at some movement patterns. So a lot of people don't quite understand that, as our body ages, as we get older and, we start exercising, we start playing sports, we do all different types of activity, even if it's just sitting in a chair at work, or maybe you're somebody who is like a contractor, things like that. Your body creates what we call various different movement patterns throughout the day. And then from there, if we feel a twinge or an ache, our body then compensates and creates a different movement pattern so we can function, so we can live, so we can keep pushing on. It's not until our brain perceives it to be pain that it's saying, hey, you need to start addressing this now, that we then start saying, okay, I think this is my problem. And I'll go back to the shin splint. It's like that runner who comes in saying, I have shin splints. But if we actually go ahead, figure out that the problem started, let's say, more up at the hip, maybe the pelvis, the low back, and we understand that they have overcompensating body movement patterns, meaning that certain muscle groups are overfiring, overstimulating. If we can actually shut those down, as I say, then what you'll notice is the shin splint actually disappears and goes away. And that's actually how I work with people. Once we really start diving into that consult and we figure out what transpired, the course of events, and sometimes it's like looking back several years, then from there we can kind of start piecing back the puzzle a little bit. And then we can start looking at those movement patterns and saying, okay, yeah, this is over dominating. This is not working correctly. This is creating a pattern here. And if we were to unlock, if we were to kind of start tweaking and fixing and moving the body in this direction, guess what? The pain is gone. So that's what I think a lot of people don't quite understand, is it becomes so critical to uncover that root cause of the problem. And I think today a lot of physicians, mainly in our primary healthcare field, I know you're in the UK, so your system is a little bit different than here in the US, but I think doctors are so quick to just dismiss a patient and they're so quick to just prescribe a medication that they're not willing to take the time to really listen to the patient and really uncover what's been going on to help heal them better, or to even bring in, the other physicians that might be able to help co-manage that person's care a lot further. And I probably have now digressed a little bit more on the question itself, but that's why it's so key. And that's where I think so many of my people get better in that 3-week time frame so fast, because we uncover where that root cause is. And from there, then we can have a clear action plan on knowing exactly what the next steps need to be, and how to really go from there.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you said that doctors normally would not address the root cause. And I would be even so bold to claim that it's not about health or healing for the typical Western medicine type of doctor's office or even the hospitals, because the fact of the matter is that it is a business, right? A doctor's office is a business. So they have to look at whether enough money is coming in, right? And that's a big difference to, for example, the traditional Chinese medicine, where the doctor is only paid when the patient is actually healthy, right? And
Sure.
here, doctors are paid when patients are actually sick. And
Yeah.
there's a system behind it, and I think it's an agenda. People don't even need to argue about it. It is a business. People want to earn money with it. They're not interested in the root cause, which is why I think that chiropractors are so important, because they actually do look at the root causes. They do listen to people just like you, and they try to help people for real, which is why we have this conversation, right? And
Yeah.
in the beginning, I said that you do this with corrective and rehab exercises. But for anyone who may not know what that is, let's clarify. What is that? And what types of pain treatments would you address with that?
So essentially, corrective exercises, we'll start there. They're really specific exercises that are designed on trying to go ahead and shut down over dominating muscle groups. So pretty much I'll try to use it as an example for you guys as well. So say you're somebody who does suffer with chronic low back pain. That would be probably the best example there. So when we look at our spine, there are many muscles that come off, both large and small. So if you were to go ahead and stare at yourself, turn your back to the mirror and stare at yourself in the mirror, you'd say, okay, I see these, two large muscle groups on either side of my spine. Okay, well, those are your paraspinals. Those are known as your erector muscles. They help us keep a nice upright posture. If we were to go ahead and cut those away and kind of take that layer off, go to the next layer down, you would see what's known as your QL. So your QL is known as your quadratus lumborum. It sits off the 12th rib. It comes off vertebral bodies L1 through 4, so that's your lumbar spine, and then attaches again at the top part of the pelvis. So that's one muscle group that usually a lot of people who have low back pain suffer with, have a very tight or overstretched QL. And right where that QL is, on the kind of more, if we were to look at the front side of our bodies and actually kind of remove the guts and everything and really look towards the back wall, you would see that there are nerve roots that come out that actually start to kind of lay close to that QL. That's known as your lumbar plexus. So if we're also having some inflammation buildup around our lumbar spine, which is creating pain and discomfort, a lot of times it's going to be, wrapped around that QL. So now getting back to the corrective exercise piece. So now if we know of a specific exercise or stretch that would be designed, or even myofascial, work, which is soft tissue, designed around trying to go ahead and really relieve the tension of that QL, guess what you're going to notice? You're going to notice pain relief. You're going to notice all of a sudden, like, you're not having sharp stabbing pain anymore. All those other factors are going to go away. So this is where knowing, or working with somebody, I should say, who really understands anatomy, physiology, and understands, movement in terms of functional movement, screenings, things like that, can really go ahead and figure out where that problem's stemming from, look at what muscle group is initiating that pain symptom. Then from there, we can take a basic corrective exercise or rehabilitation technique, which would mainly be soft tissue, and we can start to go ahead and allow for that muscle group to shut down. And then from there, we can get ourselves a little bit more on that pain-free side. Now, when it comes to corrective exercise, because you might be saying, oh, well, I'll do a corrective exercise. I see it on the internet. People say planks are a corrective exercise. If you have chronic low back pain and you have over dominating muscle firing patterns happening, meaning like that QL is really taut, really, really tight, doing a plank might actually aggravate the issue. So this is where understanding that if we don't first do some of the myofascial stuff first, meaning the foam rolling, the massage ball work first, to get that QL to kind of really release itself, to get it to have more balance, then you want to apply the correct corrective exercise into it, because a plank is actually a very advanced exercise that a lot of the times is done incorrectly, which can just compound problems. So hopefully I'm answering this question for you guys pretty well, but it's really understanding that corrective exercises are very specific to your pain issue. They are not just a run-of-the-mill exercise that you would normally do in group fitness or with a personal trainer, or something that you see on the internet or from a YouTube influencer. They are very specific to your condition, and they're designed to correct the problem. They are not designed to kind of make the problem worse, aggravate an area, and so forth. The rehabilitation technique sometimes needs to be added in first. And a lot of times when I'm working with people, especially because I work with people all over the world, a lot of times it is showing them how to do specific soft tissue work to the area or stretches before we even add in that corrective exercise. So this way they first feel pain, like less pain. And then from there, we can start adding in the exercise so the right muscle groups start firing. And then this way, the pain symptoms are even diminished even more. So again, hopefully I've kind of answered that question correctly for you guys, and just seeing how it kind of all works. but the two kind of do go hand in hand. And it's very important to understand that the corrective exercise isn't really always the first component you would do. It's actually going to be the second piece of the puzzle. And it's really meant to correct the issue, not compound the issue further.
I do completely agree what you just said, that it is actually not advisable to go on YouTube and find any type of exercise from someone you might feel is an influencer, just like you mentioned, because it's very similar to the voice training that I do for lots of clients. When they go on YouTube and they look for any type of vocal exercise, since it's a muscle as well, right? And a lot of tissue involved in the throat box, right? They tend to aggravate the problems that they have already built up over the years. And so when they come to me, they oftentimes are suffering even more with their voice than before doing all these YouTube exercises, because oftentimes those exercises are very generic. They are not tailored to the specific body makeup that this person has. It does not take into account the medical history of the person, the current medicine that they might be taking that might be influencing the body as well. It doesn't account into any individual and unique features that this specific person has when it comes to all those exercises that we can see online. So I would also urge people to first go to someone, to a specialist, like Heather, for example, if you notice any type of pain in your body, to make sure that this professional can really pinpoint the pain. And as you said, do the rehabilitation first before you do any kind of corrective exercises. I think this is really crucial to really red flag YouTube exercises, generic YouTube exercises. They're very dangerous when you are not careful. Whether it's for your body, for pain, or for vocal exercises, it's really quite dangerous. And you mentioned something before that I'm quite curious about. You said that in the buildup of the spine, we have muscles, we have nerves, and all that stuff. And you said that you can also notice inflammation in that area. Can you tell me more about that? Where is this inflammation coming from?
So essentially, if we, a lot of people will laugh because, when I tell them sometimes have to look like the foods that we ingest and things like that. It's very important to understand, essentially how nutrition and vitamins and supplements and things like that do play a role in the healing of our body. Because especially if we are somebody with chronic pain symptoms, a lot of times our body has developed or built up a lot of unnecessary inflammation. And when somebody with chronic pain comes to me, I start really kind of asking them, like, how much water are we drinking? Because we do want to flush out our system. We want to make sure we got great hydration going. But then we also want to look at sometimes the foods we eat, because sometimes they can stimulate and create more inflammation in the body, especially if it's more processed foods versus organic or grass-fed, farm-to-table types of foods. So that's one thing that when we look at anyone who's got chronic pain issues, whether it's the low back, the neck, the knees, the hips, wherever it is really understanding the wear and tear on their body from activity, but also looking at really kind of that nutritional component and making sure that they're getting all the foods and everything in that their body needs, from essentially vitamins and minerals, trying to always get it first through food. I'm a very big component of that because as somebody who has had chronic low back pain before, I want to make sure that everything I'm eating is really going to be good for my own health, my own well-being, and also make sure that I don't have any inflammation build up in my own system. But then I know some people just can't really always get great food sources in. Then we can look at adding in the vitamins and the nutrition from the vitamins and the supplements to add in to their nutrition to really aid them there. But a lot of times, like I said, when it comes to pain symptoms, there is some inflammation going on in an area. So that's where we want to always address those things. And a lot of times, once we start doing that soft tissue work, even though there hasn't been a lot of research on it, whether like the foam roller or the massage balls really do help in kind of increasing blood flow, pushing out inflammation, there's a lot that goes into it because it deals with our own healing. And so when we do start breaking down tissue, we are, essentially, I don't want to say creating trauma, but it is an initial bit of trauma because you are kind of jarring the system a little bit. You're waking things up. So that's why I always say to people, I want to see increased hydration and protein for tissue repair and recovery because, we are starting to kind of stimulate things that probably haven't been stimulated in a while. And I want to ensure that we're not creating that inflammation buildup. And so that's why I will always touch upon nutrition with the people I work with specifically, because it goes hand in hand. But again, also too, I tend to work a little bit more with athletes or beginner athletes, people who definitely want to get back to activity, where, making sure their nutrition and hydration is just really key for them.
If you were to ban 3 foods where you would say this makes or creates the biggest types of inflammation in the body, which 3 would you throw out and urge people to not eat anymore?
So that's going to be definitely your fast foods. um, so, anything that is fast food oriented, anything that's going to be high, let's call it sugar, in the sense of sweets. So, like your donuts, your cakes, your, I'm not going to really say cookies should be eliminated, only because I do enjoy a cookie now and then. But, mainly like sweets. And then also too, obviously our fast foods, because they are just highly processed. And then I also tell people, because I do sometimes work with a bigger Asian community, is to also watch, how much salt, sodium is being put on top of food. So not necessarily foods to avoid, but that might be more of like kind of a cooking style, is just watching kind of all the additional things that you're adding into that food or how you're preparing that food. But definitely all of our fast food places are not ideal. And then obviously watching the sweets, the sugar intake there. Not saying that sugar is bad, but we all know sweets, cakes, donuts, anything like that is definitely gonna not feel so great on our system, and can also to trigger that inflammation process a little bit more. And then with the sodium, it does help. It does aid in retaining more fluid. So that's why we get so much more swelling when we have a higher sodium kind of content into our diet. And that wouldn't help, again, with the inflammation process, because it's just going to leave it in those joint areas and could make it feel a little bit more painful, a little bit more uncomfortable.
And when you say you work with athletes or people who want to go or get into sports, do you see a difference between male and female nutrition when it comes to preparing the body for sports activities that are higher than just regular workouts?
So this will be a tricky one, because for some reason all of my people do listen to me, which is really a good thing. But for the most part, because I've worked with some true endurance athletes as well, they're very keen on their nutrition, just as if they were just a regular athlete, somebody who maybe is getting ready for collegiate sport, or maybe playing in a minor league kind of sport. They seem to be somewhat very balanced with nutrition. The only thing is sometimes they do struggle a little bit more on trying to get more real food in their system, because sometimes these guys do tend to gravitate a little bit more towards, shakes and gels and goos and all those other little quick sources of food energy, which I really am not a big component of. I really do want to see more of that natural source come into play. But for the most part, I would say everyone's pretty well balanced. They have occasional slip ups, just like everybody else, in terms of, especially after an event, they definitely will, go ahead and drink their beers and assume that it's totally okay to do that type of thing. And maybe go out for the pancake dinner and load up on certain things. But for the most part, everybody that I've actually personally worked with, whether they're just an athlete for a specific sport, or they tend to be more of like an endurance athlete, like a triathlete, they seem to be pretty spot on with their nutrition. They know that they need to get multiple meals in, or multiple, I should say, small meals in throughout the day in order to sustain their bodies for the upcoming activity and to really have a solid outcome, which is the other thing.
Mm-hmm. And when someone is actually hesitant in any way, let's focus on women here because that's the majority of my listeners. When someone is hesitant when it comes to chiropractic care and exercises, or they feel like, oh, I don't have time to do all these exercises, how can you address that? And how can you help them reduce their fears, maybe even? Because I can imagine that some people can even develop some type of fear when they watch chiropractors work, right? When they do the adjustments, right? When I think about those, or any type of exercises that look extreme, right? But actually are pretty amazing in readjusting the body and really getting everything in the regular shape again. How would you help someone alleviate the fear or any type of misconception that they have about chiropractic exercises, or any type of negative thoughts that they might have? And I'm sure you are meeting those every day.
Well, so I think it's kind of funny. So, you know, even though your listeners are dominantly, female, I'm actually a very small, petite little person. So I'm only 5 feet tall. I don't weigh that much. So, I can't really set fear in anyone when doing the actual adjustment because I'm not big. So a lot of chiropractors, well, I'll backtrack a little bit. So the chiropractic field is very male dominated. So a lot of times people are used to being adjusted by a male. And, I know even for myself, males tend to really force the adjustment. They can sometimes be a little bit more aggressive or a little bit more strong in their adjustment. And, the funny thing is that, and I've seen this happen where I've actually worked on male patients and they would prefer the way I adjust because it is so specific and so accurate versus having a male adjust them where you hear like that ripple effect, like the
Yeah.
whole body just making noise and, feeling like it's too powerful. And that's coming from a male versus, me working on such a large individual and them feeling the same relief, but with less discomfort, less hesitation, less fear, as you're saying as well. Because a lot of times going to a female chiropractor, we are actually going to have the correct biomechanics for ourselves to do the adjustment, plus the physics. So doing a really good chiropractic adjustment requires good physics because you have to know exactly how to put, it is force. It's known as essentially a quick firing pattern from me. So an adjustment really is that quick force into the body to allow for a pop, a release to happen. And it should be very specific. It shouldn't be like broad base where you just feel like somebody, just got your whole spine to open up. Unfortunately, TikTok is notorious for showing tons of chiropractic adjusting videos and people just being blown away because they hear all these sounds and this and that. You shouldn't feel like the adjustment is overpowering or it's over forceful or aggressive. It should feel very specific to your body. And at the same token, the adjustment really should never be the same every single time you go. It should always be slightly different because your body is going to have adapted and changed along the way. So we want to go ahead and make sure that we're always addressing the right areas that are, essentially stuck, fixated, and you want to make sure that's happening. So one, for your listening base, definitely if females are interested in getting adjusted, do see if you can't find a female chiropractor in your area. Or if you're going to go to a male chiropractor, look to see, the reviews left by women. And I would even reach out and just ask them too, how was the adjustment? Was it over forceful? Did it feel specific? because there are many different types of techniques when it comes to chiropractic care. Diversified is the most widely kind of utilized technique, and that's where you do hear the sounds coming out of your body. But again, you know, when it looks at the corrective exercise component, there's a lot of chiropractors who actually really don't do a lot with corrective exercise, rehabilitation, stretches, and things like that. They may suggest it, they may give you a handout, but they might not actually go the distance and really put those pieces into play for you during your actual treatment session. This is actually where I've been hugely successful in my 22 years of practice, because every time somebody comes and meets with me, whether it's in person or virtual, it's 30 minutes long in time. So it's you and I for 30 minutes going through a host of things, because my whole goal is to really make you better in a short span of time. One, so you'll go refer more people, and two, I want you out of my office. I don't want you in my office forever. I want you in my office for wellness care, which may look like once a month, but I want to really see you get your goals met and get you back to where you want to be. So that's a little bit of a different spin. When it comes to the corrective exercises, it's really designed on really making sure that they are time effective and that you only need to do them for a short duration, because the idea is when you do the corrective exercises, they should correct the problem, and then from there become very easy. And essentially that piece then kind of pushes off the table, and maybe the next corrective piece kind of gets put in, then that one becomes easier, and then the next piece. It's a nice little kind of building block system that's probably really unique to how I work with people, and the reason why I've had, even just virtually, a 98% success rate in getting people so like back to activity so quickly that it's worked really nicely. But it's becoming very specific, and it's acknowledging exactly what it is they need. And I don't think they've ever had fear, because they know that I'm going to really make sure that everything that we're doing is constructed around helping their body get to that endpoint, but also get to that endpoint in a reasonable time. So if I give them stuff to do on their own, it doesn't take much time. It takes maybe 20, 30 minutes max out of their day. But then again, they're getting to see an end result with it. So it really helps them there. But again, if you're ever hesitant about going to a chiropractor, I would say, one, do try to see if you can't find a female chiropractor, because they should be a little less on the aggressive side when it comes to the adjustment. And then two, if there isn't a female chiropractor in your area, definitely see what types of techniques the male chiropractors are doing. I mean, if any of your listeners ever had questions regarding who they should go to, I mean, they're more than welcome to just reach out. I'm always happy to make sure that people are finding the right resources versus the wrong resources. I mean, that's just my thank you to just being here with you today. So I'm happy to do that for them.
So you just mentioned that it doesn't actually take much time to do the exercises, and by choosing maybe a female chiropractor, people might have less fear, which I do feel and do agree with. All the adjustments that I've seen so far online were done with a male, and so I was kind of like, oh my God, will I die if I do this kind of adjustment? It sounds horrible. And if you don't trust the chiropractor, right? If you don't trust your own body and all that stuff, then you kind of will have a hard time to go through those exercises just in general, right? And
Oh yeah.
how can you make sure that if you say you have a call of 30 minutes, let's say, and you are addressing a very specific problem, how can you make suggestions to someone? Let's say it's a mom and she has a couple of kids like myself, and you really don't know where to find the time, those 30 minutes. If it's a call, then good, that there's kind of accountability, right? I have to be there. Like, I would manage that, but how do I go about motivating myself to do this every day? And I remember being a teen, I was actually at a chiropractor, and he suggested a couple of exercises, and I never did them because, well, first, I didn't see any kind of negative effects coming from it, right? It was not something major that I had pain from or something, right? I noticed later on that it was something very bad to not follow, right? Which I think I still suffer from. But how can you actually motivate someone or give suggestions to fit it in a very busy schedule, like the mompreneurs that are listening to this podcast?
So pretty much when people come to me, they essentially have given up hope. They really are at their wits' end. They don't know what to do. All they know is they really want to get rid of this pain symptom. So their motivation level is actually a little bit higher than just somebody who maybe just is looking to do generalized fitness, or getting back into fitness. Maybe their motivation level isn't quite where they want it to be. So by the time they come to me and we do that consult and I start really laying out for them, this is exactly where we would begin. This is exactly what's going on. They're going, oh my God, how did you really know this? How did you put all this together? And that just happens to be just something I'm very skilled at, very good at, is really kind of honing in, getting everything to work, and then really setting in that action plan. And then I tell them pretty much, if you listen to everything I tell you to do and you do the homework, you literally will have no pain after 3 weeks. And I think that is just one of those huge motivators, because they've had that pain symptom for so long. They've literally given up hope. They're kind of like, they just assume they're going to have it forever, but they really want to be able to do something, some type of goal, some type of activity. They really want to be able to hit that thing, that when I tell them that, they're very motivated to do it. And then I also really make sure that the homework I give them is designed around exactly what we just did in that 30-minute session. So it's literally like 20 minutes of work. It's designed to be done over the course of like 3 days. Then we meet again. That should have gotten easier. The next piece comes in. They have that for 3-4 days. Then again, and like I said, it's a nice little building block. But what they notice is immediately within those first 2 sessions, the pain has almost drastically dropped by 50%, that they are so motivated to go that next step that it just continues. And I think it's also too, just being me. I mean, I'm constantly emailing, I'm constantly text messaging or messaging through social apps, and saying, hey, how are you doing? What's going on? Because I always tell everyone too, the more you tell me, the more we communicate, because this is a team approach, the quicker you're going to see the results it is that you want. But if we don't communicate, if I just kind of say, here, do this, and I leave you to your own devices, guess what? You're not going to do it, because you're going to just kind of, drag your wheels and, never see the result you want. But I always flip it around on people, and you'll probably laugh the way I say this. I always tell people, I need you to succeed because it's my reputation. So I have a strong reputation of doing this and succeeding, and I don't want you messing it up for me. So therefore, I'm going to be all over you. I'm going to ensure that you get the result that you want, because I'm going to be working 10 times harder for you, because now you're investing your time, your energy, and money in me, along with your faith in me, to get you that end result. So I'm going to then flip it around and say, I don't want you screwing up my success rate here. So we're going to make this happen. So I use a little reverse psychology sometimes on them. It is a little fun.
Oh, your laugh sounds like the laugh of my aunt, my favorite aunt. I love it. So I know that one of the major problems that female entrepreneurs who are listening to this podcast have is they are sitting in front of a laptop like almost all day, or every 3 minutes that they can work on their business, right? So it grows and flourishes, right? And I know that the major problem that we then face is the neck and the shoulder and the upper back area, right? Where you have that hunchback, right? With time, right? If you don't pay attention, if you don't play piano in your free time or anything, right? You don't have a naturally straight back, strong bone and muscle tissue, right? What kind of exercise would you suggest to those people? And one crucial question also comes with it. Do I have to repeat this exercise all my life now to like not have the hunchback, not have the pain here in this neck back area? Or is it just like you said, after 3 weeks, the pain is gone, your back is straight, you don't have to do any exercises? anymore, because I can imagine that if I continue sitting in front of my laptop, right, hunching all the time and scribbling, then it will come back, right? If I stop doing the exercises, it will come back, right?
So it's funny because lately, probably within the last 3-4 months, I've had quite a number of people come to me and work with me virtually, all who've had, neck pain, a little bit of what we call thoracic outlet syndrome, and again, not knowing what to do. Even on my YouTube channel, I can give you the link for it so it can be in your description as well for this podcast. There are 3 stretches that you can do while sitting at a desk that are basic, they're simple, along with 3 what we call isometric exercises designed for the neck. And they're really nice, they're really gentle. You'll see me go through them, all designed on really relieving, the tension that we'd feel in the trap. The other thing is that a lot of times it has to do with our ergonomics, because again, if we're now working from home, maybe we haven't still really put the time, money / effort in making sure that our own ergonomics are set up correctly, making sure that we have like the correct desk to work from, and we have a good chair, things like that. Those are all those other little factors that, yes, can help alleviate that discomfort. But the big one is going to be doing those neck stretches initially. And then once those kick in, is really understanding how to activate your rhomboids, which are the muscle groups that sit in between the shoulder blades and also to the lats. So this way, when you are working from the computer, instead of feeling like the traps and the shoulders are just elevating up, that we're actually still feeling some of that pull back as well. Granted, I will mention, yes, getting a standing desk where you can do some sitting, some standing will be a massive help to anyone, who is doing numerous hours in front of the computer. Also, too, a lot of my people who do stay home for work, once I've shown them how to kind of just do some simple things with a foam roller, just to relieve some back tension, neck tension, they actually just really like it, because while they're on a call, they're just on the floor, they're rolling around and they're having a great time, because they're just doing something that's active, something that just takes a minute or 2 just to help their own body, which is really fantastic. So there are some things you can do, but again, it is the sequencing that we do these things in that will have the most positive effect, and will make sure that you don't have to really do them forever. But I will say, majority of even my female patients that I work with who do sit in front of a computer a lot, they just like doing the neck stretches. They like getting down on the roller every now and then just to kind of roll things out, because they find it's just like a nice little break between the day, and it kind of gives them an excuse to just have that break, because then this way they can be like, oh, I had to take 5 minutes because I had to do my stretches. It's like, okay. But maybe they didn't quite need it, but they just used it as an incentive to do something.
I really love that. Yeah, it sounds really good. At the moment, I could use some of that.
Well, when I give you the link, you're more than welcome to do all of them.
Yeah, I would definitely check out your YouTube channel if there are some exercises that I can incorporate. Because and that's also another thing you said, when you're working from home, you can adjust like your desk height, you can get the right chair and all that stuff, but I'm a digital nomad, so I'm traveling around and I cannot really adjust and I'm pretty tall for a woman, so all the desks are too low, the chairs are too low, my knees are all cracked up, my back, my shoulders, everything is like completely wrong. So I cannot adjust to that. So I guess I would have to do more exercises to keep my muscles right, and avoid the hunchback and lower back pain and all that stuff. So there's really nothing I could do except the exercises, right?
Yeah, for the most part, yes. Doing majority of the exercises, getting like a small roller that's collapsible that you could just travel around with, and also too, trying to find surfaces that, given the fact that you're so tall, like maybe it's a kitchen island or kitchen counter, and just every now and then, trying to do something from a little bit of a higher height. Maybe it's not a proper standing desk, but even if it's just that surface, then you're at least standing, versus seated, or, seated with a stool at a kitchen counter, which should give you a little bit more relief, versus the chair desk setup, especially if it's that low for you.
Yeah, yes, definitely. So you would suggest standing is always better than sitting?
for at least to break it up throughout the day. I mean, I find myself, even when I'm home and I'm doing like back-to-back calls, a lot of times, because my desk actually doesn't stand, it's seated. And I find that sometimes I'll just go stand in front of the kitchen island and I'll just do some work there, just so I can give my, upper body, my low back, like a break from being in the chair. And then, just do that. But then also too, I have my roller right over there. So I have all my tools and things that I need to do for myself. But it's not a bad idea just to, give yourself like 2 hours of standing and then go back to seating, sit a seated position. And then from there, try to do a little bit more standing, or even just maybe just going outside, just taking a break from the screens, period. And just getting some fresh air and just, mixing it up a bit.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things to do. Like, I do a couple of exercises here and there, yoga-ish exercises to like stretch and make sure that the legs are not dead after a couple of hours of work. It kind of feels really heavy, and you feel like, oh my God, I will never get rid of it again. But actually, there are exercises that are amazing at getting your legs back in shape, and feeling them again, that they feel light again and not that heavy from all that water. Yeah, it's really, really great to, as you say, to break it up sometimes, to really start moving again, because I think movement is something that especially people who work a lot forget a lot, and they kind of tend to, and because you're doing it so regularly, right, you tend to not notice when you are slipping into this pain turmoil, if you will, right? You only start to notice when it is really, really bad, right? When the pain is already very, very aggressive, uh,
True.
pushing into your head and in your mind, so that you cannot sit anymore, you cannot work anymore, your hands are aching, your feet are aching, your back is aching. And is there anything that as a person could do to notice it before and earlier, and kind of do things that would not even let them get that far?
To say, I'm a big component of just flexibility, mobility, just period. So, I would always tell people, a lot of us ignore the little twinge, the little ache, the little discomfort, and we try to just say, oh, it's just a little something, so we'll just keep pushing and we'll keep pushing through. Like I said, I'm a very big component of flexibility and mobility. So if you can just dedicate 5-10 minutes a day, whether it's just jumping on a foam roller, rolling out the entire body, or just doing a nice, couple of stretches in the morning, just to somewhat get some motion, some movement in your body. Now, granted, yes, doing these things kind of first thing in the morning is great, because our spine is the most hydrated due to sleep the night before, because, obviously we're just taking pressure off our bodies completely. But for some of us, those things might be more beneficial actually at the end of day, especially if we are somebody who has been in a very grueling job. Like, say you are doing a lot with manual labor, or maybe you are somebody who is on their feet 24/7. You might actually find that doing a little stretch routine or some myofascial work late at night, or I should say not late at night, but before bed, just allows you to have even better rest, and you wake up even more refreshed as well. So really do not ignore those little aches and pains, and try to give yourself a little bit of a routine, even if that routine is just trying to get outside for a short walk. Anything that you can think of that you think is manageable, that's doable, and that you can keep up like a consistency to. It doesn't have to be every day. It could be every other or every 2 days, but something that is a little bit more on that consistent side. Then you'll never really notice too many aches, pains, flare-ups, and you should be able to feel like your body is just aging very well, in terms of just feeling like you're not having all these side effects or roadblocks that maybe some of your other friends or family members have noticed as they've aged. It's a way to just really keep our longevity going further. And that has to do with, again, the nutrition and everything, just really taking care of our own bodies and understanding that it's a precious thing. But yeah, I mean, those would be the things I would do, and kind of the things I don't want to say preach, but the things I practice myself, and then I try to instill in the people I work with.
Definitely. It's something that I also noticed that people, as soon as they have any type of pain, they try to run away from it, especially run away from movement, right? As soon as something is hurting, they are like, oh my God, it's so painful. Let me lay down. But oftentimes, especially when it is muscular pain, except for some exceptions, of course, you should not rest or anything. But if you have like any kind of pain or discomfort, like movement, soft movement at first, right? It's the best thing that you can do. And not run away from it, or I take a pill, right? The first thing that they do, I have pain, let's take a pill. I think this, and I think in the US it's worse than in Europe or in Asia, right? People tend to run to quicker methods to relieving that pain, even though it does not really relieve the pain, right? It's just taking care of the symptoms. You don't feel the pain, but the problem's still there. So I would also, just like you, encourage people to take care of their nutrition, take care of movement, what you do, have some type of balance, right? If you're working a lot, like me on the laptop all the time, right? You need some type of balance to, um, as you said, to kind of foster the longevity of your body. Because I don't know what you want, how old you want to get, right? All the listeners that are listening right now, do you want to be 100 years old or do you want to be 1,000 years old? We don't know, right? But you have to set a goal for yourself, right? Not just, oh, I will just do whatever fits me, whatever is fun, and I will not take care of my body at all. I just want to have fun. It's my only life that I have, right? I was never a friend of that. I was always kind of thinking about the longevity of the body itself, because this is the temple, this is the house that I carry throughout all my life. So I should be interested in um, feeling comfortable in my own body, right, and not live in constant pain and suffering, uh, which we have by itself, right? If we go out into the world, we meet cruel people, we meet all types of things that can happen to us, right? We can live through all types of traumas, right, which can also build up physically in our bodies, right, which you as a
Yeah.
chiropractor, I'm sure you meet those too, right? Psychosomatic stuff that can happen
Yep.
to the body, right? So we will meet a lot of suffering in life just in general. So I'm a big advocate of fostering the relationship with the body itself and with your mind and with your emotions, because this is the house that you live in for all your life. So make sure before you start cleaning your house, everywhere to show off to your friends, right, how clean and how beautiful your house is. Make sure that your inner house like is really clean and healthy. And there's no perfection here, right? I'm not talking
Sure.
about perfection, but like taking interest, being curious, and really creating a space that where you can really fall in love with yourself. Like this genuine self-love really starts there. And I love that there are people like chiropractors who have a system, who have a way of addressing certain things like pain that comes mainly from muscles or any kind of a disposition of bones, that they can take care of it. And um, you mentioned the longevity, right? This is one of the things that is a benefit if you start taking care of your body. Are there more benefits that people should know about in order to feel more motivated to create this beautiful house that they live in?
Honestly, I would say, I mean, so I'm very much in love with the European model. And I think here in the US, it gets very lost in the sense of, I think a lot of times we put work first and we don't create that healthy work life balance because we're always striving to, get to the next thing, get to the next thing. And I think in Europe, it's very much instilled and it's part of your day is to, have that 2 hour break in the middle of the day, to not worry about, going to work at 7 or, even 8 in the morning. It's to start a little bit later. And it's also to kind of end your day and enjoy your family. It's to enjoy your friends. I think it's a huge thing that if we can try to find that balance, and I know probably a lot of people are going, I wish that I could find that balance. I think for a lot of us, if we can, we'll see also too our longevity extend even more, because we're not going to have the stress that allows for a lot of disease and a lot of conditions to start emanating from. And that's one reason why I actually do want to retire to Europe, is just because I want that lifestyle for myself. I want it. I want to have that just nice longevity as I go into retirement. But I think that's just one thing. If we can try to find that balance and then focus on our nutrition, our health, our fitness, our exercise, you'll see that your body just does not have as many diseases or conditions that maybe you thought you might wind up having down the road, or maybe you had a tendency with family, history of stuff, that they don't emerge, that they actually stay quite dormant.
Do you have a favorite country where you want to stay in Europe?
So I'm actually thinking either Edinburgh or going more towards Germany, in terms of more the northern part, closer to Amsterdam, and heading up into that neck of the woods. So, yeah.
Well, that's I stayed a long time in northern Germany, just in Germany in general. It's a beautiful spot in the northern part of Germany, but it can get really cool in the winter. If you like that, you'll definitely enjoy it.
Okay, well, good to know, because I don't know, as I get older, I feel like I want more warmth.
Yeah, no, south of Germany, or at least the center, would be then better for you. And it's quite windy in the northern part of Germany. It's very windy. So if you don't appreciate that, and especially in the winter time, the wind is really piercing. So unless you're wearing really well-made jackets, you will not feel comfortable.
Okay, well, Ella, then I'm sold. I have to go south.
Have to go south, yeah.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why I left and became a digital nomad, because I can choose where I can stay, right? If I want cold, I go to Switzerland, right? If I want warmth, I go to Italy or Spain or whatever, You
True.
can choose, yeah. Let's tell the listeners where they can find you.
Okay. So I will give all of my links, and they can be found down below in your description box. But for the most part, easiest way is just to type in askdrheather.com. You can find my website, which will have links to all of my social sites. If you have any questions about anything and you've been listening, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy just to give you a complimentary consult where I can try to figure out what's been going on with you and really try to give you some guidance that you may be looking for. And if you want to kind of check out some of my videos on my YouTube channel, it's a great resource for a lot of you that might be suffering with different types of symptoms. And also too, come September, I'm going to have a book that's coming out. I'm part of a collaboration, 25 different authors, where we're looking at giving you 25 different ways on how to really heal yourself from chronic pain. The title of the book is Learning Through Pain. And I will also notify Ella when that comes out, so this way you guys can grab a copy if you want.
Definitely. We need the link to that book as well. Thank you. Thank
You're
you so much
welcome.
for being here, and thank you for answering all my questions.
No, it's been a pleasure. I'm so glad we got to connect, really.
Me too. Such a pleasure. Thank you.